formulates like a month and a half before, so we're still too far out. And I'm not quite sure she has asked. I think there's a new guy down in Hawkins.
Yeah, it is.
That's working. Cheryl, her tourism director, so we might maybe the other one. I think it's shining example.
I have been on long time. I think maybe.
Paul's been out there a long time.
Make them think right. Oh, but you can see an awesome graphic on our website.
I was like,
I'm pretty sure this year's going to be and they're still saying
Plugged in. I didn't like that.
Didn't like being unplugged, did it?
Apparently not.
But I don't know. Have anything. And they no anatomical findings. They want to create. I just drew a top and then it came out negative. Can't go back. No. And it's for that you're going to continue your portfolio. Give it home for their days and fund this. I mean, that they're truly planned and putting it in. Show housing lines. So I'm really excited about it. Airplanes can approach just like they could. We're getting real close together. Yeah. Otherwise, it's our board chairman is just going to get the council three.
Is it done?
Eddie and I are.
Hello, they're gonna see you. How are you? Nice to see you. Not much. Hey, it was all good.
Good spring break.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Don, nice to see you again. Nice lunch today.
You got a 2-minute presentation for us today.
Good, Eddie, I'm doing
Hey, Don,
good.
good to see you. I'm great.
Good to see you.
Okay, this is the April 10th work session of the Elizabethtown City Council. Ron Thomas, read the invocation,
Let's
please.
pray. Heavenly Father, we are extremely grateful for this beautiful day, for this community, for all the individuals that give so much to make this a great place to live. Heavenly Father, we also mourn the loss of an individual who has given much to this community, Miss Betty Swope. We join with giving our sympathy and condolences and prayers to her husband, Mr. Bill Swope, and the entire Swope family. We're appreciative of all that that family has done for this community. We ask that you be with them, wrap your arms around them, and give them love and support during this difficult time. Let them know that we certainly are in their thoughts and prayer. They are in our thoughts and prayers. Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us during this meeting. Decision we make will be pleasing to thine eyes. These things we ask in thy holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Ron. Join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, Mr. Wise.
All right.
First up, all about the airport.
Well, what a great day to be in Elizabethtown, right?
Yes, sir.
And we're here to share some information with you about what's been going on at the airport, what we see coming along in the years ahead, and some of it's immediate, like this year. And with me today is Mr. Eddie Burgess, one of our board members, and Mr. John Clemens, another one of our board members.
Thank
Now,
you.
I don't know much about flying, really. I haven't spent much time in the cockpit. I might have passed by one looking in one time. It's about my exposure. I've been to that. But I have heard this. You always want your takeoffs and landings to be divisible by 2.
Did they tell you that?
That's what Eddie said, given a lot of flight instruction. He said that's his byline. He lives by that. One of the things we want to talk about today is landing systems. City's been very forward-thinking and committed to putting forth funds to have an ILS installed at the airport. We have some news we want to share about that today. We also have a few other things going on that Eddie Burgess was glad enough to find this picture from out the windshield of an airplane in flight, getting up ready to land. And Eddie, you want to tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here? We talk about a lot of acronyms at the airport. It took me forever to learn what, lots of those meant, and I'm still learning. So, but these guys that are in it every day, I mean, they can understand the foreign language when you're talking to the tower, and it was a bunch of garble to me. I call up the AWAS and find out what the weather is, and I'm still not for sure what it is, but they get it. So, but it's important as far as the flight there. Eddie, could you share a little bit about what we're looking at in this picture?
I thought this was a good picture to depict an airplane. It was flying an ILS approach, breaking out of the clouds to where they could see the runway, and it depicted a lighting system that we're going to be getting, the Mauser lighting, M-A-L-S-R, Mauser, which actually stands for medium intensity approach light system with runway alignment, which is this set of lights leading right into the runway. One of the first things you see when you're flying an ILS approach. And an ILS actually stands for Instrument Landing System, consists of 2 components, the localizer, which is the course, which we already have at the airport. If you drive out to the airport and you see that big wooden platform with the antennas, that's the localizer. The glide slope is what we've been trying to get ever since I got on the board, I believe. And I think it's finally going to happen. And it would be placed in a building closer to the other side of the runway. One of the other reasons I thought this was a good picture, it depicts something that we already have, a lighting system, and everybody talks about the PAPI lights, which is PAPI, that actually stands for Precision Approach Path Indicator Lights. And if you look just to the left of that runway, you'll see 4 lights horizontal about maybe 1,000 feet down the runway. And when you're on the glide slope, glide path, or the glide path from the glide slope that we're going to be getting, those lights would actually agree with that glide slope. We'll be giving you an indication of 2 white lights and 2 red lights. We already have that system at the airport, and we use it any time of the day or night. It's really handy at night. It helps you determine whether you're too low or too high. If it's really dark, you can't see the ground. You see 4 red lights, you know you're too low and you need to climb back up a little bit. But that's the main reason I wanted to, I thought that would be a good picture for Donnie.
How did the lights come on?
Say again?
How did the lights come on?
When you turn at our airport and most general aviation airports, all the lights, runway lights and everything are pilot controlled. There's a frequency. You click your microphone 5 to 8 times, depending on how intense you want those lights. So you're flying. If you look at that runway at night and you haven't clicked your mic microphone, it's going to be totally dark. So you go click, 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 click. Suddenly, every light on that airport comes on, including those Mauser lights. So you would do that if you were flying the approach when you got within range of that airport, and they'll stay on 15, 20 minutes. So there's no problem. But when you're flying the ILS approach and you break out below the clouds, and that's showing a pretty good visibility, which a lot of times you're using an ILS, you may only have 1/2 mile. So the first thing you'll see are those lights leading into the runway, those Mauser lights.
Currently have the Pappies, but we do not have the Mauser.
Yes, and those Pappies, we had a set of Pappies at each end of the runway, runway 5, runway 2, 3. The lights on runway 5 had been shut off because the glide slope interfered with those new power lines that were put up. What we did this fall was, last fall, we had the FAA test flight those Pappy lights and reset them to a new angle so that they would be legal to fly, and they're working now. So, but that's real handy at night. When you're coming on runway 5 and it's over totally farm land and you can't really see the ground, but you can see those Pappy lights, and they'll be, when you're right on glide slope, 2 red, 2 white, and as we use it in the pilot industry, red over white pilots the light. Red over red, you're dead. So you always look for the 2 red, 2 white to be on glide path, and they'll vary. Maybe 3 white, 1 red, you're a little high, that sort of thing. So you can really judge your distance from the ground. Any questions?
That's not a shot of our airport.
No, it's not. It's not. It's just one we found on the internet. Yes. And I think Don does have a picture of our runway here.
Oh, yeah, we have some.
As he goes through.
The rest of what we show you is from our airport. Don't hesitate to ask questions, ladies and gentlemen. We're very much, here to try to answer that. We know that this is a, time-sensitive meeting, that you're have another meeting, and we'll try to be very sensitive to that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Elizabethtown Regional Airport. So we're going to discuss a little bit about the facilities and the services that's provided there, the airport activities, the economic impact, and the ongoing improvements that we have going. There's a shot of our runway. You see that? Probably, Eddie, you may have taken that. Don't know for sure, but looks like some of Eddie's work. Just to review a little bit, it's a 6,000-foot, 100-foot wide asphalt runway with parallel taxiways. The approaches there are GPS and also what they call RNAV. Those are non-precision approaches, but they are, electronics and other things that help airplanes find the proper glide slope to properly land. We have the localizer and off of runway 5. Also, there's a VOR approach, and there's AWOS with the weather. You can dial, there's a number 737 something, and you can check out what the weather is, and that's available 24 hours a day. Then we have an RCO on site. Tell me about that.
That's where you can call local clearance delivery from the ground.
Yeah. We do show up on their radar, right?
Yes.
Another picture of the tarmac there, and there is a full service fixed based operator there. And we think that's one of the important economic aspects of this airport. We think about the economic impact of the airport, but what do? We offer aircraft storage, there's parking, tie downs, hangar rental. I don't know if we got any virus coming today. I'm hoping not anyway. Also, we have the fuel farm, and we also have a mobile refueler, a fuel truck. And that's one of the great aspects of that. And the fuel farm is accessible 24/7. There's credit cards that can be taken there. This is a shot of the tarmac with 3 freight operations setting out there. So we do offer car rental and ground support, concierge service, freight handling service, and that's available after hours. If you set up an appointment with that, to be happy to, one of our folks from E-Town Flying Service will meet the flights there. And also we have a Cessna factory authorized service center, brings in a lot of service, quite a bit of maintenance and repair going on right there now. We also have the avionics service, which is pretty rare to have a certified avionics service there. Talk about the airport's front door of our community. We think a lot of folks come in there. Recently, earlier this week, there was like an aircraft landed there with 10 folks in it coming to visit their site, picked up by a local limousine service, and they were utilizing. So it has a ripple effect of what goes on in our community. And we do serve a vast array of private businesses and customers. And in 2016, we had over 3,600 trackable aircraft operations there. That does not include the AirMed service, nor does not include the parachute jump business that's there. So those are outside of that. But corporate America, we often say, does not arrive on a Greyhound bus. So we have some other airport access is essential to industry. We have a lot of the automotive industry here that they have just-in-time delivery. And it becomes very critical when you got a factory that's not going to be able to run a shift. It might be a lot of small parts. There may be 4 or 5 pallets of parts come in there, but it allows that business to continue to operate. And it means significant economic benefit to you. And there, like, again, we do have that freight handling service, and the location facilitates rapid access to local industry. Just location is a significant benefit. And in addition to Elizabethtown and Hardin County, there's numerous surrounding counties that benefit from there. And we could go through the names with you. But a lot of times companies don't want their name bandied about as being flying in there. As a matter of fact, some of them will file a flight plan and then block it because they don't want their competitors, they don't want their stockholders, they want other people knowing who's out on the plane, where they're going, what they're doing. It's a little bit of incognito. They do a lot of that. So confidentiality is something that we treat very confidential, and we want to keep that confidence for them.
I have a question. And that previous shot looked like a night shot. You said it was a freight jet or something like that.
Yes.
I'm just curious. If a freight jet comes in, let's say at 9 o'clock at night, Eddie or John, is there somebody that they communicate with there at the airport at all times?
They will call the airport during the day.
Okay.
Let them know they're coming and so on.
Okay. So when it says full-time fixed base operator, there, and I don't know, but there's nobody there commuting 24 hours a day. Okay. And no ahead of time.
But
In our experience, they've been very good about coming in and taking care of those corporate customers.
you might see somebody out there at 2 o'clock in the morning unloading an airplane for a shift that, to go to get parts out to a factory that's going to be working, the day shift later in that day. So,
Right.
So do we have the employees that do the offloading and?
yes, we do.
loading on? Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's through,
They have 7 employees.
yeah, that's where the fixed based operator that's called.
Okay.
fixed based.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they were unloading cargo, would they simply unload it so the aircraft can get going, and then maybe the next day, one of the plants would come by and pick it up?
Generally, they'll have a van meet it there or a
Oh,
truck.
they will. So we don't store it overnight?
No. It's generally taken right away from the plane, right there on. There's a breakdown there about the type of activity goes on there, the jet airplanes, turbine, the light twins, small fixed wing, and then of course the rotary. Have quite a few operations there from Fort Campbell. They come in there and fly a lot. A lot of the helicopter like to do their practice flights through there. Here's something that's pretty interesting. Car rental, last year, there were 179 car rentals that rented 410 days. Hotel reservations had 156 reservations for 386 days in there. If we talked a little bit about, this is what I would call the west end of the runway. If you look at that airport protection zone, if you all recall, the city asked us to pull back on our plans to extend that runway. But you do see the airport protection zone there, and that's the end that those Mauser lights we're talking about. And also, that's the end that the ILS will be installed on. So we're looking forward to that. The FAA tells us that the equipment is being prepped to be shipped here, that we do have a draft of a reimbursable agreement. We did bring a copy of that this evening to leave with the Dee Dee, city attorney, to review that. We have reviewed it. Our engineers have reviewed it. We believe we understand it, but it's probably something we like to, if we're going to be spending those kinds of dollars, we will talk about here in just a second, that we want to make sure that the city is all fully on board with that as well. And then facilitating the lower LPVs and the ILS minimums on runway 5 is what we're talking about, installing those Mausers and those other landing systems. This year, we're talking about, city has a fiscal year, I think June 30th. Federal government, FAA, has a fiscal year in September 30th. So we have years that overlap each other here. But when we're talking about this year, we're talking about the federal government's September 30th year, that we plan to have the strengthening of the apron, which is about a 80 by 160 foot strip of concrete there, because what's been happening, larger aircraft been coming in, they're parking on the apron, and if it's hot weather, they'll sink. Or if they come in there and they sit there 2 or 3 days, you'll find the wheels sinking in the blacktop. So we're going to have some strengthening of that through a concrete access. Also, we think a security system is something that is needed at the airport, and we do have that in our long-range plan. I want to talk a little bit about the cost for the ILS. I brought a copy for you all to take with you there. You know, we have the money set aside for that, and that is segregated in the airport's treasury. It's not commingled with any other of the operating budgets. Eddie's done a very good job of that and does a yeoman's effort every month, keeping all those financials straight. The very top number up there, that 301,019.90, is directly out of the reimbursable agreement that is cited as the cost for the FAA. That's their cost. The rest of those were gathered by our engineer, and that is their best estimate about those costs. We asked him to do a conservative estimate. And what we meant by conservative was, normally when you think about conservative, you want a lower number. In this instant, we asked him to make sure that he thought for a number that it wouldn't be in excess of that. And what we wound up with was a number there, $600,519.90. Johnny, we want to talk a little bit about the ILS. Believe me, there has been in-depth discussion at the Air Board about the ILS. And John's probably one of the more knowledgeable board members. And I want to say this, we have a great working board. All of our board members are not just a knife and fork and a howdy doody. They all have jobs and duties to do, and they all do a very good job of that. And I'm proud to be a part of it. John?
Initially, I had several concerns about the ILS. One was if we extended the runway, then we couldn't relocate the localizer and the glide slope transmitter because the wires that were on the end wouldn't allow us to utilize it. And so now we're not extending the runway. So once we put it in place, it'll be there, and we're good to go on that. Another issue with it was we had minimums, how low can a plane fly and how bad can the weather be to come into our airport. And our minimums are larger than what we would like them to be. They're not as good as Clark County or Owensboro or Louisville International for corporate aircraft. And Chairman Wise has, and we had concerns, how do we get those minimums lower? And he's addressed all of those concerns. So we've cut down trees, and we've worked with the FAA, and by doing the Mouser and perhaps moving out the taxiway later on, which will be a grant from them, we'll be able to get minimums that we call 200 and a half. In other words, the clouds can be down to 200 feet. Visibility could be half a mile, and that's as good as a corporate aircraft's going to get in Louisville. So there's no reason for them to go to Louisville or Clark County and then drive to E-Town. They'll be able to come right into E-Town. And by taking the ILS now and piggybacking it on top of our GPS approach, that should give us more credibility with the FAA to get these other two things done, which will give us those lower minimums. And so we want E-Town to be competitive with all the other airports out there, and I feel like that's going to happen now. And like I said, Chairman Wise has done a great job addressing those. He's listened to all those issues, and I really feel like we're in a good position to do this now.
John, no one's concerned anymore about the FAA pulling the plug on the maintenance issues with that?
The FAA has agreed to do the maintenance on the system. So if at some point in the future the FAA decided that they wanted to transition from ILS to strictly LPV, I think we'd see that all the corporate aircraft at that point, because they're going so much slower on this one issue now, will have transitioned also to LPV. So I feel like we'll gain in the short term now doing the ILS, and then we'll be in a position to keep E-Town as one of the best regional airports.
Thank you, John.
We are not spending any money trying to recruit an airline into Elizabethtown Regional Airport. However, we are trying to challenge ourselves to make this the very best general aviation airport that we have the potential to be. And that's what we're all about. That's why we're presenting with you a 5-year capital improvements plan that shows you there about $5,085,000 of projected. And it's important to make this point, that local cost on that is only 5%. 5% for the state, 5% for local, but 90% of that comes from the FAA. So over the next 5 years, and those are our best guesstimates that we have today. Will things change over the next 5 years? Most likely. The perimeter fence, that's our best guesstimate that we've got today. We have estimates on that, and you can see what the local cost is out there. And then, of course, the land acquisition for the Mousers, installing the Mousers. And then once you get the Mousers in, there's an FAA regulation that causes us to relocate the taxiway. It has to be more than the distance it is from the center line of the runway at this point in time.
Don, over a 5-year period, the state participation is listed at $254,000. Is that an amount that we are guaranteed? I mean, we know we would get that, or is that
we
wouldn't
go forward with it if we didn't have that commitment. Once we get to those points of drawing, plans and specifications have to come out. You look for the grant, and then you go out to bid for it. Is the way that process works. And so
we would virtually be assured of that.
Yes.
And beyond 2022, when you relocate the taxiway, are you talking about just lengthening the taxiway?
No, it's just moving it towards the terminal.
Towards where?
The terminal.
And would that,
There's room for that between where it currently resides and the terminal. There's room to make.
when you do your reinforcement of the tarmac and stuff, you're going to go ahead and take that into consideration
We'll do that before that.
with the concrete reinforcement?
Yes. Okay, we're kind of down to questions, but a few final comments here. Scott Reynolds from your all's staff has came and done a site evaluation for us, and it indicated, I believe there's certainly a roof that's in need of repair. We were looking at that today as one of the major items that we have on our list going forward. Also, there's an air conditioner that has been causing some maintenance problems recently, and those are two major items. The other things that we've talked about, we're going to do our very best to keep that within our operating budget we currently have. Any questions you might have for Eddie, John, or myself?
I'm just curious in Kentucky, I was gonna say in Erie, but in Kentucky, what other general aviation airport would rank about our equivalent, size, traffic? I'm just curious.
Of course, Bowling Green has an ILS, and they have airline service out of there, but it's subsidized. And it's our strong suspicion that when the subsidies go away, so will airline service.
I guess what I'm looking at, who would be our biggest competitor in general aviation in this area?
I guess Owensboro, maybe.
Bowensboro?
So certainly Bowling Green and Owensboro would be something.
Immediate area, I think we're the best. Just the immediate area, our level of services and everything. You know, if someone wants to come to central Kentucky, they really need to look at E-Town. I don't think Campbellsville.
Well, I don't think there's any question. We said that before, that our airport certainly is one of the greatest things we've got in this area to offer industry when they look at coming in, and that without this, there would be industries we wouldn't have, I'm sure. Without our general aviation airport, there'd be industries that would not have located here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It just amazes me each month at the monthly meeting when we talk about how many aircraft movements we had, with 254 this past month. So that's right on track to be, if you annualize that, close to what we've had last year, and maybe increasing some. But
That's a lot of traffic.
yeah. So, yeah.
Long-range plans, or you want some more hangars?
We I will talk a little bit about the hangar. All of the new hangars are filled. Everybody's in the old hangar wants to be in a new hangar. So yeah. So there is some discussion going on about what to do with the old hangars. Well, can you refurbish those, or you have to tear them down and start over? There is some work that's going to be done on the I guess the taxiway in between the new and the old hangars there, though, later this year. Too.
And aren't you guys also working and doing some things with the air and space?
At the high school, very much so, yes. Students are there on a regular basis and are really getting a lot out of that. The two, Dan Corley and Joe Stucker, tell me that they're really enjoying that aspect of coming to the airport. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Eddie,
Thanks, John.
thank you all
Eddie.
very, very much. And, you know, I served many, many years on that air board, and I tell you, this is the best air board ever. Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
You think she ever said that about the other airport?
Never, never, never,
Did she say that about when you were coming, Terry?
never.
I heard her tell Ernie Bates that one time. I won't say what Ernie said.
No, thank you all so very much. We really appreciate it. And it is truly a working board. Thank you, thank you. Ed Pope, you want to talk about a trail?
Just wanted to update the council. A couple years ago, the Area Development District actually wrote a grant for green space to improve some of their trails. But they do not do any project administration. So since the city had to be the applicant for green space, that was turned over to the city. You all may recall that we had to go through an archaeological survey, had to hire folks to do that. We're now to the point where we have to finalize the design of the trail. It's proposed to be mostly on the county government, their new government center. The trailhead would be up around their parking lot, go across their property and tie in along Cardinal Creek. The state requires that you only solicit engineers who are on their approved pre-qualified list. So we did that. We received 2 proposals back, and we'll be bringing you all a recommendation next Monday to accept one of them, sign a contract with them to finalize that design. The committee that evaluated the proposals was made up of representative from county government, since it's going to be on their property, green space, and the city, our staff. The hope is that we will have the design finalized by the first part of July, out for bid, and then the construction can still take place in this calendar year, so that we'll close out the grant by the end of the year. So depending on funds, we'll see what the scope is. The hope is we do all the trail on the county property, tie in along Cardinal Creek, also have money to redo the parking lot at the trailhead down at St. John Road. And if we're lucky and the numbers are good, we will spend some money upgrading the trails in a couple other sections. But in all honesty, based on pricing and the grant amount, I think we'll be lucky if we can do those 2 things. But like I said, just wanted to update you all. Next Monday, we'll have a municipal order authorizing contract with one firm, and then get to work on finalizing the design.
Thanks, Ed. Scott Reynolds.
If it's okay, I'm gonna turn this off. So I can get it for you. At the Justice Center, just a little bit of history and background on the Justice Center. As you all know, we own that building. It is, the bonds are paid for by AOC through our rental agreement. And when we sent that, when we set up those bonds, the city kept a certain amount of money for maintenance and anything we needed to do. That building's 20 years old this year, believe it or not. So it is in need of some improvements inside. And the judges and the clerk have given us a list of stuff they would like done. So coming here tonight to show you all the architectural fees for that portion of it, because we do have to hire an architect. A little bit of upgrades to it, and then have a general discussion on, like I said, not only the architect's fees, but also the scope of work, so we can see what we can do and what we can't do. So,
Have we already done the roof?
the roof is complete.
It's complete, okay.
I've seen a lot of roofs completed with this. Yes, we have too. And this roof's complete too, and it doesn't leak anymore either. So,
With all the rain we've had.
yes, we have tested it. As of today, in that pot of money that the city controls, because that excess money was city controlled, not AOC controlled, we have $665,396.81. That money is being drawn down a little bit due to maintenance items that AOC does not reimburse us for. And some of that is emergency repairs to HVAC equipment, because like I said, the building is 20 years old now and the HVAC equipment's getting a little older. The AOC's process to get that reimbursed is a little slower than what the judges would like for us to do. So there are some emergency repairs there. And the list of reimbursements we are getting back from AOC is dwindling a little bit. So that pot of money's there. We have control of this building for 5 more years. 2022, the building gets turned over to the county. So we have $665,000 for our funds for the next 5 years. But like I said, the judges have come up with a list of stuff that they would like for us to do. And that list, the scope of work is there on the front. There's certain, it's mostly on the first floor of the building in the courtrooms. Carpet was replaced a couple of years ago. So we won't have to do the entire building. There are portions of But the carpet, as you can imagine, in courtrooms, and Dee Dee's down there quite a bit, courtrooms and back hallways and judges' chambers is 20 years old, and it's really showing its wear and tear. So they've asked us to look at the carpet. They'd asked us to repaint quite a bit of the building as well, because as you, like I said, it's 20 years old. And then the other items on that list are, hey, we'd really like to get these done. The drug testing room is a big one on all the judges' list, and it's a security reason that they would like for that to be taken care of. So with that scope of work being said, the architect has proposed a fee of $20,650. Of that, $5,800 of it is interior design work. I'm not sure we need to do all that interior design work, so we're still working with the architect to lower that number as much as we can. I think we can pick out colors, and I can't, but we can find somebody who can pick out colors for us a little cheaper than $5,800. So architectural that we have to do, we have to hire an architect because of the size of the building, and we're doing interior renovations. If we were just doing carpet and paint, we wouldn't have to have an architect. But because of some of the walls moving and doors and things of that nature, we do have to hire an
Can we
architect.
break out the carpet paint, the things that we could do without an architect? Could we break out that, let them do the structural work, and then after that have a separate project to where we do carpet and paint?
We could. The issue is going to be, I'm going to tell you, I'll go ahead and bring it up. The courtrooms and judges' chambers and all that are available for 2 weeks in July and 2 weeks in December. So the judges have asked us to try to get this done during their shutdown, July 12th through July 31st. As you can imagine how much furniture has to be moved in that period of time. It's going to be really, really tight if we do two separate contracts. We'd have to do one in July and then come back and do the other one in December if we chose to do it that way.
And really, the only thing you're thinking we would save there would be part of the architect.
Part of the architectural fees. The cost of construction is going to be the same. So I wouldn't suggest it. We could do it, but that's.
Scott, did we retain this Clyer, the architect, or?
We have not hired him. That's one of the things we're coming here to ask you all tonight is Tony Clyer. He designed the building originally. So he's no longer with the firm that designed it. He's out on his own now, but we kind of felt like going back to them because he designed it and built it. So
Would we give local architects an opportunity?
who's a local architect?
In Larry Graham still?
No, sir.
He's not.
No,
I did
sir.
not know that.
I don't think we have any local architects now. But that's why we went to them, because he did it originally.
But who would actually do the work? Would we put all that out for bid?
Yes, sir. We'd have to send all of that out to bid. And I'm estimating all this work is, and I'd hate to throw out an estimate without having an architect on board and knowing exactly, but we're talking $250,000 to do all this work.
But we would break it out in different pieces.
Yes, sir, we would.
You're gonna do the painting, you're gonna do this.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna move furniture, and you're gonna, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
But we're not gonna have a general contractor on board where we.
Well, we'll probably have to have a GC. It's better to have a general contractor just to coordinate all of that. Now, but we can split out the bid packages, but it's better to hire a general contractor for the coordination of all of that. Or either that or
And he manages all.
that
the
he
subs and
manages all the
everybody
subs and
else.
everything, but we can break it out in separate bid packages to do that. And we'll also bid it out where, I know there's some carpets on state price contract we can get now and paints we can get. And we'll probably buy all the materials to save the sales tax. So we'll look at all the different avenues to lessen the impact as much as we can.
There's not a whole lot of time then to get all this back.
No, there's not. It's a tight window for us between now. AOC just gave us permission. I've been talking with AOC since last September, and they just gave us permission to do this work. So it's been a little bit. The judges wanted it done last December, and we just couldn't get there. So, and if we can't get it done now, we will have to push to that December window. But we're going to push as hard as we can, if you all approve this architect, to move forward so we can get the work done.
To get it all done in July.
Yes, ma'am.
And carry it to December.
Correct. It'll be tight, but I'm looking at some of it, it's doable.
Well, these are the things, though, that you should not have any problem getting contractors to answer these bids. In other
Correct.
words, this is the kind of work they like.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, it's because of the scope and the tight frame, we are going to have, it will be bigger contractors too. Your 2-guy painting crew, local 2-guy painting crew is not going to be able to do all this work in 2 weeks. So,
Somebody can throw a lot of people at.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, did I leave anything out? Sorry. So if it's okay, we'd like to bring you all next week, municipal order to, is that right? To get you all to approve Mr. Clyer to do the work. Get us started. All right. Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, you guys have anything else before we go upstairs? No? You two are both gonna be on Monday, right? So nobody else can miss next Monday if we're gonna okay that for him,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
All right. Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
Oh,
I guess we're eating up there too, aren't we?
We're gonna be,
I'm still, I can't get my stomach adjusted to fast. It's still 4 o'clock for them. My stomach has adjusted to the time change.